That's okay. If you can use your video, please turn it on. These calls always go much better, okay? Hmm. Also, if you put in, I guess, what you're hoping to get from today's call, that's also going to be really helpful. Okay, like what would be the big thing that you'd like to come away from today's call with? I've got Tennessee, the Heartland, very good. Got the Bahamas, lovely. Definitely want to go and visit the Bahamas. Chris O'Byrne, you want to pop in where you're coming in from? Peter as well, and Richard. Hamburg, Germany. Awesome, Peter. Can you put on your video, Peter? Oh, Milwaukee. Very good. Chris, I would have guessed you're Irish with that name. Chris, can you put on the video as well to join? It'd be great to be able to see you. And Cherie, if you can put on your video, that would be awesome. Richard Hunt, where are you calling in from, man? Be good to hear. Cheltenham. Very
Oh,
good.
yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, video's an issue. No problem. Okay, awesome, Cherie. Brilliant. Okay, guys. I guess yeah, if you want to just share what you're hoping to get out of today's call as well. Um, and then as we go through today's workshop, you will probably have questions or things you're like, hey, hopefully that makes a lot of sense, but like, how do I apply it to my situation specifically? So make sure and take notes, get a pen and paper or your phone. And then at the end, we're going to have some time for Q&A where basically you can ask me anything and I will do my best to explain how you can actually make this work in your situation specifically. Okay. Because this is the magic of I guess what we're going to be going through. But the challenge that I see with most people is like there's so much information out there, but it's like, how do I get the right information and then put it into my life so it works for me as well? Okay. That's really the magic. Because if you can do that, then you can turn this into something consistent that you can do for the rest of your life. So you can stay strong, mobile, and pain free. Okay. Um, Also, there's no silly questions. That's a really important thing as well. You're here, hopefully, you're here because you want to learn. So you're not expected to be an expert. And the most curious people are the people who generally get on best with all parts of life because they ask questions and then they're no longer unsure. Okay. So, yeah, if you have any questions, guys, again, I'm always happy to answer them. So we're going to jump into the workshop now. All right. Mm, that is wrong. Okay, cool. So today's workshop, we're going to go for about 45 minutes, roughly. Probably about 20, 25 minutes of me kind of presenting. And then I'd like to kind of give you guys lots of time at the end to just answer all your questions and make sure that all this makes sense. Okay. So break the pain loop workshop, how to rebuild a pain-free, strong and mobile body after 30. And then also why most people stay stuck and the three-step system that I use on myself and my clients to actually finally break free of pain. So, this is for you if you're over 30. Most of the fitness industry seems to be just really gauging or designed for people like in their 20s or people who are super fit. You know, you open up Instagram, everyone's really fit. This is working for my clients who are all over 30, but most of my clients are in their 50s, 60s, even 70s. Okay. And that's why people come and work with me because they're really frustrated with stiffness, flare ups. They go into a class and it's just the level is way too high for where they're at. And they just get into this cycle of constantly getting hurt and injured and never getting momentum. Okay. Also, if you're someone who feels like you've tried everything, you know, you're like, God, I just keep breaking. Everything I do, it never works for me. This is going to be for you. Everything that we're going to go through here today. Okay. So what you're going to learn is why you keep getting hurt. Okay. Why are what you're doing leading to pain. The exact system I use on myself and hundreds of men over women over the last 14 years of coaching to help them get and stay pain free and feel a decade younger. The reason I say a decade younger is because clients kept on telling me these on my interview calls with them. They're like, I feel 10 years younger. I feel 10 years younger. So that's why I say it in all of my emails because that's what the clients say happens to them. And then how to turn this into something that you do for the rest of your life. So there's a concept called the infinite game. This was popularized by Simon Sinek. If you know him, he's a massive business thought leader. And he talks about like the people who play the infinite game where there's no end date are the people who are most successful. So he uses this through the lens of business. If someone's just trying to make money in business and the other person is doing their business because they love their business and they're really passionate about it and they would do it for free, the second person is always going to win because it's a sense of play for them and they never want it to end. And it's the same with your fitness. If you're trying to get somewhere in 4 weeks or 12 weeks, so you can go back to the person that you were or are that has led you into the position you're in today, you're always going to be caught in this cycle. And the issue with a lot of the fitness industry is it's telling you that exercise should be punishing and nutrition should be depriving, and no one is going to sustain something that's depriving and punishing. So I'm going to try and show you guys that like really loving exercise and learning to actually find something that really stimulates you, engages you, and excites you is the key to staying active for the rest of your life. Okay. And turning this into the infinite game when it comes to exercise as well. So why listen to me? I've been coaching for 14 years. And in a lot of professions, that's not really that long a time. But in the fitness industry, over 80% of people who become coaches are gone within 5 years. So basically, being 14 years in, there's actually very little people I talk to now who have more experience than me, which is a shame. One of the biggest issues with the industry is actually keeping good coaches in the industry for longer. Also, I spent my 20s basically in chronic pain. You name an injury, I had it. I was very, very anxious and worried about where I would be now today at 37. I definitely wouldn't think that I would be feeling fit and pain free and the healthiest I've ever been. But basically, understanding the system and the reasons why my body was breaking down in my 20s, I then started using this on my clients and I've helped hundreds of clients over the last 14 years to get pain free and stay pain free for the long term. Okay. So we're going to jump in, guys. And basically, I remember like in my 20s, um, what used to work for me just kind of stopped working. So I was always active. I was playing sports my whole life. And then in my kind of 24, 25, I just started accumulating all of these injuries. And this photo in the bottom left is of me doing a triathlon in my hometown in Ireland, a place called Killaloo. And I remember around that time, basically, I had plantar fasciitis, which is inflammation of the foot, which makes it very difficult to walk. If you've had plantar fasciitis, you know how it feels when you get out of bed in the morning. You feel a sharp pain through the sole of your foot, the first thing you do. So I had this, and I was on paper very fit, doing triathlons, lifting a lot of weight. But I remember limping into work as a personal trainer and just feeling like a complete fraud that I was actually going in to teach these people to be healthy. And here I was in my physical prime, supposedly, just feeling completely broken. And that was kind of the first, I guess, wake up call that I was clearly doing something that wasn't helping my body. In fact, what I was doing was working against my body. It was breaking it down. The injuries kept on accumulating. I would go to physiotherapists. They didn't have the answers. I knew that something had to change. So I left Ireland in 2013. I went to India just to go for to travel, but also just to try and figure out things from a mobility and flexibility standpoint and see like, okay, like how can I rebuild my body? So the first thing I did is I went to Mysore. Here's myself and my best friend over on the right hand side. And that was the first time that I started looking at movement as more of a practice and something you do like almost daily rather than something you do from a performance standpoint. Because up until that point, all of my movement was about winning, triathlons or sports and like, basically getting better times or lifting heavier weights. Now, this is the first time that I was looking at this as an actual a movement practice, something that I did on a daily basis to make me feel better, almost like brushing your teeth. Like you don't brush your teeth for the love of brushing your teeth. You brush your teeth so your teeth don't rot and fall out of your head. So that was the first time I started looking at this through a different lens. And then that led me to Australia. I went to Australia and I lived there for 6 years. I opened up my own business in 2016. And then I started learning from world leading experts in mobility training and flexibility training and martial arts. And it wasn't people in their 30s, it was people in their 50s, in their 60s, people with like not only experience, but people who were showing me that their system was working for them now in their 60s, in their 70s, in their 50s. And that they're the type of people I wanted to learn from because if you're learning from someone in their 30s and they're telling you this works, well, we don't know until they're older, right? The gentleman in the bottom here is my mentor since 2016, Ryan Hurst. Ryan is an amazing coach. He runs GMB Fitness, if you know GMB Fitness. And I've learned a ton from him over the years as well. Okay. Now I'm 37, I'm pain free, strong, and most of all, I have a body that I can rely on, not a body that gives me a lot of anxiety. I can do my job, I can live my life, I can do all the things because the system that I'm going to be teaching you today. So, this is the flare up spiral that we see so many people deal with. Maybe you guys will relate to this as well. So, what generally happens is you feel motivated. A lot of the times it might be because you're so fed up on not being active or just feeling not feeling good. So you get motivated, you get your act together, you start training, you start pushing yourself. You know, you've got all this motivation. Maybe it's January. Then all of a sudden something happens. You get a flare up, work gets busy, so you stop, and then you lose confidence, you lose your strength, and then you try a bit harder, and then you repeat the cycle. So I'm going to show you this right here. So this is like basically it's called constant maximal effort versus auto-regulation. So again, something happens. Okay, it's January 1st. I'm sick of the way I feel. I'm going to make a big change. It's time. Now's the time. Now or never. You've got all this motivation and you push yourself. You know, maybe it's the gym you're going to, the app you're using, and it's really, really intense, but you're feeling motivated. Then something happens, usually between weeks 4 and 12. Rarely do you last beyond week 12. Okay, usually you're gone at that point. You get a flare up, you're exhausted, you just don't enjoy what you're doing. Something happens, and you're like, I can't continue on this trajectory. It's not sustainable. So then you stop completely. And then what happens? You go back to square one. You stay in square one for 1 month, up to 6 months, up to 9 months, up to 12 months, up to 2 years, up to 3 years, up to 5 years. You hit rock bottom or that frustration. So, like that Tony Robbins quote, when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change. And you're like, all right, I'm going to make a change now. So you make the change, you start again, but now you're like, hey, I've wasted 6 months doing nothing. So now I need to make up for all that lost time. I need to push myself even harder. So now you push yourself even harder. And instead of going 8 weeks, you only last 4 weeks this time. You pull another hamstring, you hurt your knee again, or you just feel really fatigued again. You stop again. The cycle repeats perpetually. It's the most frustrating cycle that I see with clients. The second option is how we coach clients. It's called auto regulation. And this is where like you never stop. And in order to never stop, you actually have to make it a lot easier than normal. And this is really difficult because all of the programming is like, you need to smash yourself. You need to kill yourself. You need to push yourself. You don't want this bad enough. Auto regulation means we start, even though you're really motivated, we want this to feel easy. We want you to be like, is this it? This is easy. Exactly. Because easy is repeatable. Easy is what you do every single day for the rest of your life, even if you're tired. So it needs to be easy. And the thing is, easy starts compounding and it actually gets you to an incredible level. So you start a bit easier. Then all of a sudden life happens, work gets busy, your kids, your grandkids, there's issues. You even get an injury, but you keep going. You train around it. You navigate life when you're traveling, you're working, you're moving, whatever. Doesn't matter. It keeps happening. You're like water. You keep going, regardless, you always find a way. And this is the magic with exercise. Once you learn how to not stop exercising, you get amazing results. But that's the tricky part is understanding how to turn this into something that you never stop doing. And of course, if it's really intense, it's really difficult, you're going to stop doing it. The minute something difficult comes up in your life, you're going to stop. And then what happens is maybe it's way slower for the first 8 weeks than what you're used to. Maybe you don't feel as strong or as fit. But what happens in 6 months? Well, I've never been consistent for 6 months. So I don't even know what this feels like. Now you've been doing it for a year, 2 years, 3 years. And what we always hear from clients is like, this doesn't make sense. This feels way easier than what I've ever done before, but I'm the fittest, the strongest, the most mobile than I've ever been in my life. Because you start getting the compounding returns of consistency. And this is the magic with what we do. Okay. This is where most people fail. Again, like I talked about here, you push too hard, you burn out and you quit. And you just keep repeating that cycle. And then you think like, oh, maybe it's just my body isn't able for exercise. Or maybe, I'm the problem, I'm doing it wrong. It's not really that. It's just the system, the method, the way you're following it is broken. So we want to start slow, build smart, and never stop. Again, a lot of the fitness industry are single men in their 20s, early 20s. They don't have kids. Maybe they're living with their mother who's cooking their meals. Okay. Um, so it's very different when maybe you're running a business or you've got a really intense job and you've got 3 kids and you've got all these crazy things going on in life. And, you need your model to be flexible. It needs to fit your life. You shouldn't have to fit this rigid structure. That's the key. And then you get the compounding progress rather than inconsistent peaks. And this is the biggest thing. If there's one thing that I want you to take from today, it's probably this, like focus on growing your floor rather than your ceiling. Now, what I mean by that is your floor is what you never go below. And this is what we do with all new clients at the start. We say, what can you commit to every single week, even if your world is burning and everything is going wrong? The answer is usually like two 15-minute sessions a week. Usually. Sometimes that's one 5-minute session a week. And this is where like behavioral change, just understanding behavioral change is it needs to be, you're going basically as you get into anything that you want to do consistently, friction will come up. And friction is the thing stopping you from doing it that day. And if your floor is 60 minutes in the gym, which is a 20-minute drive away, and it's the middle of winter, that's going to be enough friction for you to not do it that day. But if it's 5 minutes in your living room on a mat, most people, they can overcome that friction on the days they don't feel like it. And it's not like a 5-minute workout is going to magically change your life. But what it's going to do, it's going to allow you to keep the consistency every week, every month, and every year. So you don't get into that cycle by falling off. Oh my God, 6 or 12 months has passed. What has happened? I failed again. The issue as well with that pattern is your belief system is someone who's always a failure. I never do this. I always fail. I never get this right because I'm, whatever. You don't have that belief in yourself. Um, so growing your floor, if there's one thing to take away from, I would actually ask yourself right now, write it down. Um, what is a cadence that I could do for the rest of this year, every single week? Uh, and it can be 1 minute once a week. It doesn't matter how small it is. But if you get that and you follow that from today, that's going to potentially change your life completely. Okay. What we do as well is we get people to, our clients to schedule it into their week. So, like, no one has enough time. Like I've clients who are running companies with 5 kids and sick parents. Like they don't have any time, but they still make time for exercise. Okay. So it's about prioritizing it. And if it's in your calendar, it's going to become more of a priority. Okay. It's going to bring more awareness to that time. Now, the 3 common myths that we always hear, it's just aging. I'm just getting old. It's wear and tear. I need to stretch or train more. And I just need more motivation. If only I was more motivated, then I would be able to do the thing. And the truth is, you need a system that adapts to you because, like, motivation wanes up and down. Aging, you definitely, I mean, I was worse off in my 20s and my 30s because the system I was following was broken. And I'm coaching clients now in their 70s, feeling 10 years younger. Okay, so be very careful with using aging as the reason that you're not in the position you want to be in, because your body tends to go downhill very quickly, in particular after 60, but responds incredibly quickly as well when you put it into the right environment. Okay. So the three-step system we're going to talk about today, guys, is the resiliency reset. Okay, the resilience reset. So step one, release and realign. Step two, rebuild. Step three, resilience. So this is what we do with clients. And I'm going to explain to you exactly what we do now. So every new client that comes into the program, we focus on release and realign in phase one. So what this does is, first of all, we do a movement assessment with the client. And if you want to do a movement assessment later in the call, I'll show you how you can book in for one with me, and we'll go through all this with you. But basically, we go through a full movement assessment with the client. We reset their posture, their breathing. This helps with nervous system tension, reducing that. We address the root cause of why they are in pain or weak. And the main thing that we focus on is this upper and lower cross syndrome. Okay, so in really simple terms, what upper and lower cross syndrome is what most of us develop from just being in modern world, from sitting too much. So lower cross syndrome, which is generally exacerbated from sitting, is our glutes get weak, our hip flexors get tight, our lower back gets tight, and our abdominal area gets weak. So we get this kind of duck posture. Okay. Now, what this does is it generally leads to lower back issues and knee issues. So we address these issues by rebuilding strength through the glutes, opening up the hip flexors, strengthening the abs, and that relieves tension through the lower back. Now, that's kind of like the zoomed out version. And if you think about a lot of like high intensity classes, they kind of do the opposite. So again, I'll just actually explain upper cross syndrome, and then I'll explain generally why people keep getting like shoulder, knee issues, low back issues when they go to a gym or to a class. So upper cross syndrome basically is your neck flexors are weak, your pecs are tight, your upper traps get very tight. So one of the most common issues we see with clients is like really a lot of tension through the neck and the upper traps. Generally from if you have a desk job or you're just driving a lot, it's very, very common. And then a weak mid back area, so rhomboids. Okay. So if you zoom out, what's actually generally happening here from how we spend our days sitting is all the backside of the body weakens. So the glutes, the mid back weakens. That slumps the shoulders forward. We lose our control of our pelvis, our core switches off. The front of the body tightens. So we start getting this. If you look at like someone who's very, very old, a lot of times they've this kind of rounded, hunched position, right? Because gravity is just pulling them forwards. The chest is tight, hip flexors are tight, their back and their glutes are weak. So if you think about like going to like a high intensity class, they'll start doing lots of movements like push-ups, like burpees, like lunges, like squats, that really all of those movements target the front of the body. So the push-ups target the chest and the triceps. Maybe a lot of and then like lunges and squats targets the quads, the hip flexors. So they're pushing you further into these positions. So now you're becoming even more highly compromised with shoulder issues, elbow issues, hip, knee, low back issues. And that's what generally happens to a lot of people is they keep going back to the gym, the PT, and they keep getting these same flare-ups. So what we do as a default is we do the opposite because you're already spending all your time in those positions. So let's actually reverse that first of all. And again, phase one, let's realign and release all this. So we strengthen all the back of the body. Okay. So now instead of, you know, just stand up tall, have a good posture, like how many of you do that? And then in 20 seconds, you're like this again. If you have a strong upper back, you can just maintain your posture because you have the structural balance and strength to maintain that position. So we focus on strengthening the back. We focus on strengthening the glutes and the hamstrings. So then we are offsetting all of that weakness that has built up over the however many decades of just being in this sedentary position. Then we focus on opening up and getting flexibility through the chest and the front of the hips. And 80% of the time, this fixes a lot of people's issues. Now, of course, there's a lot of complex injuries that people are coming to us for, but this does help to address a huge amount of them. So, again, for you, just from a program and exercise audit standpoint, okay, I should probably be doing more strength based work for my glutes and my back and more flexibility work that's going to open up my chest and my front of my hips. Okay. So that's the first step, guys. Just understanding that. Okay. And a lot of the times when we explain this to clients, you're like, oh, that makes so much sense. Like that's why I kept on hurting my shoulder because I was already in this position. And then I was doing loads of push-ups and I was forcing myself even more into this position and getting all this tension. Okay. Step number two is rebuild. And this is where a lot of like rehab programs, you're perpetually in the rehab phase. And a lot of exercise programs, there's no real like thought process about like how we're developing your strength, your mobility, and getting you better at movements. It's just kind of like, hey, let's just do a bunch of random things to make you sweat. And that's like a lot of clients say, like, yeah, the coach I was working with, he just seemed to be kind of putting things together as I was coming into the gym. So what we do is we build a foundation and then we build on top of your foundation. Okay, so phase one, you've got your foundation built. Phase two, we start rebuilding with progressions. So it's tailored strength and mobility progressions, what I like to call movement ladders for scalable progress. And then we can progress up and down the ladder based on how you're feeling that day. Okay, and this is a huge part of what we talked about earlier. How do I turn this into something that I do forever? Well, if the exercise is really hard that day, you could always scale it down. And I this example is like of a, let's just say we're doing um variations of a push-up. And just like I haven't gone through this today, but generally in exercise, there's like five fundamental movements. And if you're unsure about this, you can ask me at the end. I'll explain in more detail. But generally, there's a push pattern, so pushing. There's a pull pattern, so pulling towards you. There's a squatting pattern, so lower body, the front of the body. There's a hinging pattern, lower body, the backside of the body. And there's a core pattern. So if you like zoom out, that's basically there's five movement patterns, and all movements will be categorized in those five movement patterns. Okay. So, like with the pushing pattern, this is an example of how we can progress the pushing pattern to make it easier or harder. So, if you're a complete beginner, we'll probably start you on something like a wall push up. So, most people, regardless of their age or level, they could probably do a push up against a wall. Very, very easy. Okay. If they don't have any, wrist or elbow issues. And how we progress people in a program is we don't just give them a wall push up 1 month and then some random thing the next month. We start getting them to progress up the ladder. And as we go up the ladder, the exercise complexity goes up, the strength demands go up, the mobility demands go up. But also, like it's a skill acquisition standpoint. There's more excitement for the client because they get more buy-in. They can see like, oh wow, this is actually exciting. I'm not just doing push-ups for the rest of my life. I'm doing like this new version, this new more challenging version. Same with like we do a movement called the bear, which is basically like a downward dog. Um, if you're in this kind of A-frame position. And like that might be step three of the ladder. And like a handstand would be step 10 because mechanically they're very similar. So a lot of times we're like, hey, the bear that you're doing? We're actually working you towards a handstand. And then the person's like, oh, wow, this is super exciting. Like, because mechanically there's not that many differences or that many steps between going from that downward dog towards the handstand. Because mechanically the positions are very similar. And this is what we love to do as well from a rehab standpoint is like we want to get you like strong and confident, but then also we like you to work towards movements that would have scared you in the past because you're like that would wreck my back or that would destroy my shoulder. Because a lot of the thing as well is changing your um like kind of your belief system. I have a bad back, my shoulder, that would wreck my shoulder. But with a proper progressive model, now you're doing stuff that you would have, well, it would have destroyed your back before, but you have that resiliency. And now you're like, oh my God, I'm not broken. I'm actually a very strong, capable person. I feel very empowered now. Okay. The great thing about this as well is let's just say you're a really fit guy and you're working on ring push ups. So you're strong. Like you're stronger than 80, 90% of the population doing that. But let's just say you're very fatigued or tired on a certain day. You can just regress it by going down the steps of the ladder. So instead of skipping the session or you're tired or you get an injury, we just reduce the steps. to make it more accessible to you. And this way, then you can always train at your level based on how you feel that day. So let's just say when you feel 100%, you can train at that 7 out of 10. And again, I'm using the push ladder as just a basic example, but this could be for anyone at any phase in their exercise. And let's just say today I feel 7 out of 10 is kind of like that's a good level for me. Like that, I'm kind of pushing myself. I feel like I'm progressing. I come in next week and I haven't slept and I'm going to work at a 3, but that feels exactly like the 7 did last week. So I'm training at my level. And that's what I was saying to you about the auto regulation. Instead of this constant effort, I need to do more every time, we're navigating and checking in based on how we feel. So yeah, last week I felt great, but this week I'm just going to do a little bit less. I'm still training, but a much lower level, and then I'm going to respond again. Because like the reality is you're going to not feel good a lot of the time as a human being. That's normal. Like your mood isn't going to be good. You're going to be stressed. Things are going on. That's completely normal. But you don't like not go to work or you don't say, hey, honey, like I'm going to come back in 3 months when I feel okay again. Like, or hey, son and daughter, I'll parent you in 6 months when I feel up to it. You still show up in all those areas. And you want to think about the same way with your exercise as well. Okay. Phase three is resilience. So this is where we're focusing on turning this into something that you do for the rest of your life. And also that is basically the concept is called deep health. Okay, and this concept is from Precision Nutrition, who I've learned a lot of my information from. I'm a precision nutrition coach. I have been since 2011. And this is where like understanding that like your physical health is linked to everything else. And the better your physical health is, you can get more out of all these other areas. And so basically like your deep health is your and this is kind of the pattern we see with clients is like they go from basically being a burden, like they're injured, maybe someone in their family is helping them around, or they're always complaining about their back, or their energy is shot, and they can't go for walks with their partner, or play with their kids, or they're just grumpy. And then all of a sudden they fix themselves and they become a leader in their community. They lead their household and family and inspire everyone else. And then they start leading their friends. And it's amazing. It's a pattern we see again and again and again with people. And they become the inspiration, not the person I don't want to become when I'm older. They're like, wow, I want to be like you. You're amazing. Um, and this is where we focus on sleep, stress, nutrition, all of it to give you that deep health. Um, and basically, like, you have the physical side, like we don't go into the existential, the emotional side is, we're very clear on what we do as coaches. We're not therapists. Um, environment is something we focus on a lot with clients. The mental side we focus on, and then the social side as well. This is huge, so being able to enjoy your body in a social way is massive. But it all starts with the physical side, like getting your body in a place where you can actually feel confident that this is a body that is um, a vessel to help you live the life that you want, not something that's hindering you in where you want to go and kind of, taking the floor from underneath you. Now, some of the examples of clients we've worked with, I mean, on YouTube and Spotify, you can listen to all the interviews, but like Damien is an example of that kind of deep health concept I was talking about. He started working with me at 39, really busy guy, 3 kids, really intense sales job, working for a very busy tech company in Ireland, doing a lot of travel around Europe, a lot of socializing, and was feeling just not good from a health standpoint. He dropped 30 pounds, rehabbed his body. The cool thing is his kids started calling him new dad because he was a new dad. He was acting differently. His daughter, he's a story. His daughter is doing a headstand. He went down and did the headstand with her. All these kind of cool memories that he's building up. He also got more confident at work because now he was 30 pounds lighter. He was running every day. He's going running with his son now. His son's getting on the sports teams. His wife is getting into activities. So him changing these patterns about himself, then he became the leader of the household. And now his family are fit. That's amazing. He always talks about like the impact this is going to have on not only his kids, but probably their kids as well. Linda, She came in January. She's 72. Linda was pretty fit, like for her whole life, but she started getting a lot of injuries, and what used to work for her stopped working. And the big thing that she was getting frustrated with was a lot of people are like, "Well, you're 72 now. That's this is aging. This is what happens when you're 72." And she was like, she lives on a farm. She's like, "I want to stay independent. I want to be able to run with my grandkids. Um, I'm not accepting this. Like, I'm just an old lady now." So she came into the program, rehabbed her injuries. Now she's running with her grandkids. She says it on the interview like, "I feel 10 years younger." So she feels great and she's just excited now because she can stay independent for much longer now. Mike, he's 67. He's a realtor in Maine. He loves dressage, which is like horse riding, but he was starting to feel again a lot of things catching up that were limiting him. So his knee was an issue, his shoulder was an issue, anything he tried was causing pain. He couldn't find something that was meeting him where he was at 67. But also that wasn't like an elderly program, for a nursing home. He was like, "I'm an active guy. I want to stay doing things." So he came into the program and we rehabbed his knee and shoulder, and he just feels fantastic now. He's been with us for over a year. Christine, 62. She has her own business, really busy. And really, for her, it was putting herself first. That was a big thing for her. And like, instead of, focusing on the business, focusing on her family, she actually started focusing on herself and rehab decades of injuries and just really felt like now was her time to really get her body back on track. She also says something about like, she's hip replace or knee replacement, and she said like that's shows how disconnected I was from my body, not listening to it all those years to the point that I needed to get a replacement, which I think is a really important point as well. Like that's a big signal if it's getting to that point without us listening. We can get very disconnected from our bodies when we're just focusing on other things. So these are the four clients I told you about. Um, Now I just want to kind of go through like how our system is different from traditional systems. So a lot of the times it's this kind of quick fix mindset, like let's give you a program, let's give you some sort of a diet to get you results so we can take photos of you so we can sell more stuff. What we do is all about just long-term sustainability. If it's not sustainable, I'm not teaching it because it's a waste of my time. It's a waste of your time, first of all, and it's a waste of my time as well. A lot of clients have come to me and they said like, "I got into good shape for 3 months, but then I was in worse shape 6 months later." Like that just doesn't make any sense. Let's just go a bit slower, but get results that you can have for the rest of your life. Also treating symptoms. You're going somewhere, they're just looking at your knee, but maybe it's coming from other areas. Um, and we're looking at like what's the actual root cause. Also, how is your sleep? Like, how is your nutrition? If you got like a lot of injuries and you're sleeping 4 hours a night and you're eating cheesecake all day, like this is not an environment conducive to healing for your body. You're going to have huge inflammation. You're going to be much at higher risk of further injury. So we want to actually fix the root cause, which a lot of the times lifestyle is a huge part of it as well. Also, just random workouts. Like, let's just make you sweat. Let's just make you tired. That can be, there's nothing wrong with that. But if it's leading to repeated injuries, then that's not a good approach. So we structure the progressions. We build your foundation and we progress you for where you're at and we meet you where you're at, which is a really important thing. And then pushing harder, push, push, push. You keep breaking. We adjust things. And again, get you in a cycle so you can actually stay consistent. Like that's the biggest thing. Okay. And a lot of the times it's again making it pretty easy at the start. We had one of our clients, she actually just sent me a message yesterday. She's got Parkinson's and she's 67 and she was actually having issues walking like 6 weeks ago. Now she's like walking up and down the stairs on the phone. And she was like, when are workouts going to get harder? You know? So we want the client to say that, like, hey, this is almost too easy. Um, the last thing I want to touch on is like, how to overcome failure. Because if you couldn't fail, then you'd keep going. But it's because you fail and then you stop and then you just get into this failure pattern. And sometimes, maybe some of you on the call, you've been failing for decades. And then it's a belief system that's inbuilt in you. Okay. So what we do with clients to, and a lot of people come to us who have been failing for their whole lives. First of all, we teach you how to scale habits. Okay. Now, this is a movement example, but we do the same for nutrition. Okay. We do the same for whatever lifestyle stuff we're working on. So, like, think about this like a temperature dial. I'm going to turn the dial up or down depending on how much bandwidth energy I have. So let's just say 80% of the time you can kind of go at a 6 to an 8 out of 10 on that dial. So 80% of the time you can do it, a 1 hour gym workout and a daily walk, you know, or sorry, 3 1 hour gym workouts and a daily walk. Okay. And that's kind of your consistent base. Sometimes you can even go up to like 5 days a week, maybe a few, maybe a month or two out of the year. And that's kind of where you're able to stay at. But you can't do that for the entire year. You can maybe do it for 80% of the year. Now, a lot of times what happens is once you can't do six, you go to zero. And then unfortunately, that can turn into 3, 6, 12 months, which is the problem. So instead, you can't do six, then we scale it down to what you can do. And that can be literally just parking further away, like using the stairs, doing a workout beside your bed. Um, Again, just scaling it down. And the biggest thing is when you scale it down, you haven't failed. You're not taking the easy way out. You're responding to what's realistic for you right now in your life. It can be the same with nutrition. Whatever I eat protein at each meal or whatever you're focusing on, I don't I'm not drinking during the week. All of a sudden you're really stressed. Now you're drinking wine every night. But we just scale it down. It's not this like you're either doing it or not. Like I'm all in or I'm all out. That's the big trap. You scale it down like a temperature dial. This next concept works really well as well. This is from James Clear, who wrote Atomic Habits, if you've heard of the book. Never miss twice. So I'm going to train 3 days a week. I missed Wednesday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Oh no, I failed. I'm going to start again on Monday. You get to Monday, oh my God, I've skipped a whole week. I didn't sleep well. I'll start next month. Okay. This is a really common mindset because it has to be, you think you need to be perfect, but that's not possible. So never miss twice means you don't miss the next opportunity and you don't beat yourself up. So I missed Monday or I missed Wednesday. Okay, well, I'll move it to Thursday or I'll start again on Friday. That's it. It's not a big deal at all. Same with food. Food, I think, is the biggest one. Like, I'm gonna go on this new diet. Oh my God, I had a muffin. I couldn't help myself in the cafe. I fail. I've ruined everything, and it's Thursday. So look, I'm just going to go crazy over the weekend, and I'll start on Monday. Then you start on Monday, and you've loads of guilt and shame, and everything's just gone out the window. So never miss twice is like, okay, I had a muffin, but I mean, I'll just eat back to normal on lunch. It's not a big deal. All right. So it's damage control. This is what it does for you. The last one is probably the most important one. So again, this is called, this is from Kristen Neff. So it's the 3 elements of self-compassion. It's a big thing we talk about with clients as well, because like you're going to fail repeatedly. That's how you succeed. But if you can't forgive yourself when you inevitably fail, then it's going to take you much longer to get back on track. So she is a really nice kind of 3-step concepts, which is basically focusing on self kindness, sense of common humanity, and mindfulness. So, self kindness versus self criticism. Normally, when we do something wrong, we berate ourselves. Okay. So, you want to think about when you make a mistake, like how would you, if a client or if a friend made the same mistake, like what advice would you give your friend? You wouldn't say, you're an idiot, you always do this, you're such a failure, oh my God, you've done it again, God, you're such an idiot, right? But that's how we talk to ourselves a lot of times. Sense of common humanity versus isolation is a huge one. So everybody goes through this. So this doesn't have to be around exercise, but whatever you're doing that you feel really bad about, understanding that there's literally millions of people feeling this exact same way right now, makes you understand that you're not this isolated person that's messed up again. And this is really important. So, like you failing the diet or failing the nutrition or exercise, there's millions of people experiencing that right now. So, you're not this lone person who's a failure. You're in the majority. So, just understanding that and actually believing that as well. And then mindfulness versus over identification. So, you're neither ignoring nor exaggerating the feelings of failure. An example of this would be it's Friday night and I'm really tired and I was meant to do my diet, but I drank a half a bottle of wine and a box of whatever treats and I feel terrible. Over identification is I always do this. I'm a failure. This is just who I am. Mindfulness is like, hey, I guess if I'm being curious here, this kind of generally happens on a Friday. And it's because I'm really overwhelmed from all the work I've been doing. And I think I just need to give myself a bit more space, especially on a Friday. Like I just have all these meetings and then it's just really stressful. And then I just want to unwind with food or alcohol. So then you can use that experiment the following week. Like, hey, instead of having all of this stuff on Friday, I'm going to give myself a little bit more space and then see how you respond the next time. Okay. So you're not just saying, oh, I just can't help myself. This always happens. I'm a failure on a Friday. You're getting mindful, you're getting more self aware, and it's awareness is how you build change. Okay. So, what this does, following this system, it builds confidence in your body. You wake up without stiffness. You get stronger and more mobile every year. That's the cool thing because it compounds, like putting money in the stock market, keeps growing. And the biggest thing is it rewires your identity. Now you're not this person who maybe like I felt I just had a bad back, I was broken, I'm gonna have to get a new job. I don't even know what I'm gonna do with myself. And I can't, like, I'm gonna just get increasingly weaker. It gives you freedom. Okay. If you've seen Braveheart, um, okay. And that's the biggest thing that comes across from people we work with is they feel free again. They don't feel trapped in their body. I think that's the biggest thing that all this does for you. So, guys, if all this made sense and you want to avail of a movement and strength assessment, we'll go through that first phase which you, see where your limitations are and everything. Um, you can book in a call now. So you just scan the screen. I'll give you guys like 30 seconds if you want. The biggest thing though, this is not for, if you're looking for shortcuts or you're just not interested in making a change, but on this call, we'll be like, okay, these are your weak links. This is going to be the best thing you can do for these weak links, and this is how you do it. And then if you want help with it, we can help you as well. But like, this is all the information that you need to understand right now. Okay. So I'll just give you another 20 seconds, guys, if you want to scan or take a photo for later and book in a call over the next 2 or 3 days and we can kind of go through all this stuff with you. Okay. All right. Okay, guys. So that is everything. So we're going to open up the Q&A now. And again, like I said at the start, there's no silly questions. Like literally ask me anything. I love people asking questions because it also gets me to understand maybe what I wasn't clear enough from an explanation standpoint. Okay. Um, who wants to jump in?
Hi there, Connor. Great presentation, by the way.
Great.
Um, I don't know how you did it, but in less than 45 minutes, you brought clarity to a lot of things I didn't even know I didn't understand. So that's making me feel more empowered. But I also
Great.
feel like I'm a textbook person of what failure looks like. But I'm hopeful that there's a fix because you showed both sides of the coin. But a question, as you talked about it being a process and a journey for like long time, um, infinite loop, as you call it, what do you find as a general expectation of time in the ramp up? Like to get a person from probably negative to actually seeing positive in their life? What do you find even with the small steps?
You mean like how someone's coming in, in a really bad way with injuries or lifestyle issues, health issues, how many weeks, how many months until they're like really kind of thriving or just feeling like they're
Yeah, like they can even just do it because sometimes even the thought of you being able to do something is probably the defeating line, right? Because they can't. So yeah, going from I think thriving means that you're like well within there, but even just going, I don't know how else to
yeah.
explain.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. It's going to be a disappointing answer. It's like it depends, because an example would be James, a client of mine. He came into the program last January, 12 months, and he had a hip replacement. He was having a lot of issues with his gait, with walking, a lot of issues with losing weight as well, like really struggling. So he came in for a year, and we set like these goals over the year, but he hit his goals in like 10 weeks. And we were like, this is not normal. Like he lost like 35 pounds. He was back, he's out hiking, and like he was like walking on the sidewalk or on the footpath, like looking at where he was putting his feet. Like that's how uncertain he was with his gait. Um, so it depends. Sometimes it takes longer as well. I'm not going to say everyone who comes in is super quick and short, right? But the biggest thing is when you start looking at this as like, okay, this is something I can actually do. I don't feel like this is making me feel worse or this is too hard, I think is a big thing. But it's like it's up here and you can't even get there. You're like, oh, I'm already failing from day one. And then like again, the big thing that we do is we coach people to turn this into something that you can do forever. Like that's the big thing as well. Um, which I think is really important. Does that it's not like a very clear answer, but it's kind of hard to say, yeah, like that. Yeah, you come in here and then in 6 weeks you're going to be at this point. But like if I would assess the person, go through their history, I have more of an idea, definitely. But it's more of and it depends, I think is the way. Who's next, guys? I'm actually just going to get a screenshot with you as well, guys. Great. Okay, other questions, guys, or I guess an easy thing as well is just like, what was the number one takeaway? Something that resonated with you. You can just put it in the chat if you don't feel comfortable talking, okay? So, Chris, you've got some Irish blood in you, I think.
Yeah, well, my dad and his parents are from Ireland, so yes.
With
My
that
mother's
name.
parents are from Italy. It's a perfect American
Okay,
mixed marriage.
very
Um,
good.
uh, what I liked is I liked your approach. I've been following you online for a while, but this approach of what you call it, not the straight up and down, but the moderation of going where you're at and where you can be, and then go back and forth. That makes so much sense to me, and I like how that is structured. And I think um, that makes sense for my life because that's I think most everybody's experience with fitness. It comes and goes, and you can't do these six pack abs or lose 80 pounds in 6 weeks because that's just not obtainable uh, if you want to keep yourself healthy while you get there. And it just makes sense to me. But I appreciated that understanding of the program.
Great. Yeah. Karen, you want to jump in?
I have a question about the scan code. It takes you
Yep.
to a page on a discovery call, and I'm not sure, is it a scheduling tool?
Yeah. It's a calendar. So you just book in the calendar and then we go through the
Okay.
assessment on the calendar.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. That may have been a dumb question, but
No
this
silly
sounds like a
questions,
really
Karen.
good system.
Great. And if there was one takeaway, what would you say was it?
Um, kindness to yourself and gradual improvement. Yeah. And
Good.
then
Good
going
takeaways.
back a level if you're having trouble at your current level for a little while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. They're big ones. Very good to hear that. Richard, let's hear from you, man. You can unmute yourself there. Yeah.
Hi, I just have to go. The thing I took from it is, and I've also read the book. Thank you for
Right.
the copy of the book. I bought the Amazon copy the day before, but never mind. Yeah, I'm sorry, my dog's playing up. Yeah, I've had a bit of a difficult 18 months. I had a big problem last year with my asthma and breathing. I really thought I was on the way out, but it lifted after some medical intervention. But I was told earlier on in the year that I was pre-diabetic. So that's forced me to look at my diet. And I've lost about 7 kilos
Well done.
over that period. It's mainly cutting out snacking. The chocolate biscuits went, but I've now I'm looking very thin. And I realise that I'm 75. I need to build up my muscle.
Yep.
Sort of sarcopenia can sort of come along. And I had a problem a few weeks ago where I was trying to step up a fairly steep step with my daughter and grandson, and my knees just collapsed. And I do have a problem with one knee that I've worked out was the way I was twisting my leg getting into the car. But I just found it interesting to read about your, how can I say, your sort of I wouldn't say laid back, but your acceptance that all people are different and they need different activities to get them going and get their body back together. So I am interested. I think my one problem is the affordability. That obviously hasn't been mentioned yet, but yeah, I think that's my main concern at the moment. I'd like to have some encouragement and guidance from someone like yourself. I did go to a gym a few years ago, but they just said everything's over there. Just go and help yourself, sort of thing. And there's no way you can do it like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I found it interesting. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, and I think the point you said there just about like, everyone's different. Like obviously exercise, I think that one of the best quotes is like exercise is optional, movement is essential. So like if you're a human being, you have to move. Like if you
Yeah.
want to be okay as a human being, if you don't want to be really sick, and it's just finding the movement that resonates with you and that you feel like you want to do this and it excites you. That's the big thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Richard, you're welcome, mate. You're on mute, Pam, in case you're trying to talk. There we go.
Trying to get it off mute. Hang on.
You're off mute now, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, just thank you again. As you know, I've listened to your talks before. No, my takeaways are the same as before. It's just that keep working on the posterior chain stuff to compensate for the years of sitting, and I've really taken to heart the do something every day. And the not miss twice. And that's really helpful to stop the all or nothing bit that I've got a tendency towards. But no, so thank you very much. Super presentation again.
Great. You're
Thanks.
welcome. Glad you found it helpful.
Yeah.
Candy, do you want to ask any questions before we jump out? Don't know if Candy. Oh, there we
Hi
are.
there, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hello.
Hey.
I'm just listening. No, I don't have any specific questions. I agree wholeheartedly with many of the things that you've said. I've learned over the course of the years, I have to keep in movement. I've lost strength as I've aged, but also I'm not working now for 5 years, and there's a tremendous difference in my overall strength. So I totally agree with a lot of the things that you've said. Make a point of standing up as much as possible, walking as much as possible, although I am right now recovering from Achilles tendon surgery, so I am quite limited. But I do repeat my exercises from physical therapy whenever it occurs to me in the house, and still working on stairs. I live in a 2-story, but we have a full bedroom downstairs, so that's where I've been living, and that's not my next goal, to be able to master the stairs. So just keeping
good.
moving. So thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I hope your recovery goes well. All right.
It's just a very lengthy progress.
Yeah.
I'm 4 weeks out already, and I had hoped to be further along at this point, but it's just a very slow procedure. So,
Yeah.
but it's moving forward. I am progressing
Good.
slowly but surely.
Right.
Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
exactly. You're welcome. Awesome,
Thank you.
guys. Well done for all you coming on live. That's really always a good thing. You took time out of your day. There's a million different things you could be doing. You decided to actually invest an hour in your health, which is fantastic. And yeah, you're on the email list. I'll send the recording as well over the next few days. And if you have any other questions, just reach out via email. Okay. See you guys. Take care. Bye bye.